Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Pleasant Valley. I am Reverend Kelly Bershinsky, and whether you are here with us in person, it looks like we are approaching a full house today, or if you are out there on Facebook Live, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited and appreciative to be here with you. And please put your hands together and help me welcome our musical inspiration for the day, Mr. Alberto Dalpino. Wow. Yet again, I'm going to mention it once again, I'm a little jealous of this musical talent and ability. But I thank you so much for being here, Alberto, and for all that you do and have done for this center. And I hope you know that it is appreciated and you are appreciated. So did you guys see the title of that song? Did you notice the title of that song, Merrily Kissed the Quaker's Wife? And I'm not sure who was doing the kissing of the Quaker's wife, but I suspect if you're going to do that, merrily would be the way to do so, I suppose. And it certainly left me with a feeling of merriment, that the music in that song. So thanks again. Again, I'm Reverend Kelly. Thanks for being here. And as we look again at our theme for the month of October. We started that last week for anybody that was here. And our theme last week that we began for the month is back to basics. The idea being that when we encounter suffering or struggle or difficulty in our lives, the cause quite often is a violation of basic principles, is a violation of the very basic tenets of whatever it is that we're experiencing difficulty with. And so, those basic principles of spirituality is what we're talking about this month. We talked last week about attention, and we will continue going into the basics today. We're talking about things like prayer and silence and meditation and those very basic principles that give us a fighting chance at living a wonderful life based on spiritual principle, based on spiritual development. Okay, does that make some sort of sense at least? Good, I'm glad to know, because it makes a lot of sense in my mind. So, glad to know it does in yours as well. I want to introduce a special guest today, and this is our practitioner of the day. Her name is Reverend Connie Tibbetts Milner. Reverend Connie and I graduated ministerial school together. And so she is someone very near and dear to my heart. She is a wonderful friend, a wonderful person, and just an all-around joy and light in this world that can certainly use that. So please welcome Reverend Connie Tibbetts Milner.
Supposed to be serious and somber, but after that, I'm not sure. Would you like me to speak a little closer? All right, here I go. So, we're going to perform this ceremony of light to promote universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges all peoples and all faiths, all sentient beings come from that one great universal presence, which we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religions, thought, and experience, which we honor here today. We light a candle for the Tao, honoring universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light a candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light a candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light the candle for all norms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. We light the candle for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of spirit in their lives, and for the space that we are holding for them at this center, and for all religions unnamed in this ceremony. As we light a healing candle, please put silently into the light the names of anyone you wish to have experience the healing flame of God's eternal love. And in this gloriously beautiful, perfectly unfolding moment, what I know right here, right now, is an energy so pure, so truly amazing. It is creative, it is abundant, it is loving, it is vital. And this energy, pure, perfect potential is me and each and every reach of my voice. And each and every person, each and every thought, consciousness, sentient experience happening right now is the perfect unfoldment of that energy. And I claim right here, right now, that this experience happening as the Center for Spiritual Living at Pleasant Valley is unfolding perfectly, beautifully, joyfully, exceptionally, because of the energy that resides here, now and always. With great thanks, with gratitude, I embrace this experience, this place, these people. With gratitude, I claim all the wonder that is unfolding right here, right now, all the wonder that is about to be heard and seen. With that gratitude, I get to let it be, I get to let it play out, I get to let it be amazing. So I do, I let it be. I consecrate this moment gleefully, joyfully. I say, and so it is.
And so just stay in that place of prayer, in that place of sacredness, in that prayerful place, as this moment unfolds even a little more perfectly by means of music from Alberto.
Thank you, everybody, and good morning. And the song that I chose to play, the second song that I chose to play today, it's a song that it's called Lament, and I wrote it about 10, 12 years ago, at a moment of despair when I was about to throw the towel, as they say. And then all of a sudden, I thought that that's what life is. Sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's not. And so I decided at that moment, song, that was like a cathartic moment for me, that I thought it was a beautiful song. And so maybe out of despair sometimes grows a beautiful flower. And so this is the song that I'm going to play for you today. It's called Lament.
Wow, that is that is good for the soul, I have to say. My goodness, that's amazing to me. Just kind of filled me up for sure. And so, on the heels of that incredible song, I'm going to invite Reverend Connie back up, and she's going to share her views just over the next few minutes of this idea of our monthly theme, Back to Basics, as it relates to spirituality. Reverend Connie Tibbetts-Milner.
Good morning. When Reverend Kelly called me to come do this, actually I should back up. When Alfie called me to come do this, because we all know that it's the minister's spouse who sets everything up, and we all just kind of show up and do our thing. So when they called and told me, I was really excited, and they said, "Oh, back to basics," and I thought, well, that's pretty easy, right? Back to basics. So I really started looking at it, and I thought, what's more basic than breathing? Am I right? It's the most basic thing. And I love this lament was beautiful, because when he finished, I noticed I went, oh. Right? That was just insane. It was so beautiful. Thank you for that. It was such a gorgeous intro. So I went into a dictionary. I went to the Cambridge definition of what back to basics means. Believe it or not, that's in a dictionary somewhere. I thought I was going to have to look for back, look for basics, but anyway. And I love that you said over the next few minutes. I'll work that out. Cambridge Dictionary says to return to a simpler way of doing something or thinking about something. It's a return. So in that definition, it tells me that somewhere in the mix of my life, I got confused. I got chaotic. I got caught up in things that weren't quite there for me to have to deal with, and I let it block me all up. So if I want to get back to basics, I got to clear all that junk out, right? So my thinking is, for me, I like to breathe. You'll notice as I'm talking, sometimes I have to stop and do the whole, that's a thing for me. I have to breathe, because when I breathe, it brings me back to my moment, brings me back to my thought. I'm a big consumer of media, movies and TV and all of that, TikTok, all of that stuff. And there was a TV show ages ago called Scrubs, maybe not ages, but a while back. And there was a surgeon who was having trouble running ER experiences, these emergency experiences, and he couldn't get the handle on it. So he went to his coworker and said, "You're so calm, you handle this all the time. How do you do it?" And she goes, "I just breathe. I just breathe." And then he has been that wonderful moment, in movies and TV, there's always that really exciting moment. So there's this moment, and they're calling this emergency trauma, and he goes running for it, and he stops in there, and all of a sudden he freezes. He's freaking out. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on. And he sees her from a window, not unlike that one. That's kind of cool. He sees her from a window over there, and she just goes, so he breathes. And everything in the room freezes and slows down. And he knows exactly what to ask for. He's talking to his nurses in a calm, clear fashion. "I need this medication. I need you to do these things. Go get this. Go get that person." And it runs so beautifully and smoothly because he returned to a basic function of life, breathing. And what the breath does is it brings us present. Because when we are living in the future, or we're living in the past, we get all convoluted, we get all constricted and chaotic with our thinking. But when we're present, you've all had this experience. I mean, show of hands, who's had that experience where you just had a chaotic day and all of a sudden something brought you back around and you went, "Oh, I need this, I'm going to do this," and everything gets done. And you get to the end of the day and you're like, "Whoo, look at me fly," right? Everyone's had one of those days, I hope. That's what the breath does for me. That's what I think of when I say I'm going back to basics. I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to take a beat. I'm going to bring myself right back to this moment, because the only action I can take is right here, right now. I have a quote for that. Ihsan Elahi Zahir, he was an Islamic poet and author. He says, "Give yourself permission to take time to breathe, to live life, to give, to love, to reflect, to be present, and just be." So when we're present, we're just being. This is what I'm here for. Something is going to organically show up. I'm going to be prompted by my beliefs that I've garnered for all my life in this moment. Next one, and not the previous one. This one. So I breathe. Oh, gosh, I need that breath. So what that does for me is it brings me to this sense of clarity that I'm just so excited about. And like I said, I'm really big on media. I consume a lot of media. One of my favorite movies is actually a family movie called Mr. Megorium's. Everyone knows that one. Okay, I'm so glad to know that you know that one. It's a fantastical, just crazy, magical movie. But in the movie, this man is talking to his friend who's really frantic and upset because we have to do this and there's no time for that. And here we go, and here we go. And he says, "What time is it?" And she says, "Well, it's 37 seconds till it's time." And he went, 37 seconds. And she goes, "No, 37 seconds isn't good enough." And he said, 37 seconds. No, we breathe. We pulse. We regenerate. Our hearts beat. Our minds create. Our souls ingest. 37 seconds well used is a lifetime. Breathe in to that lifetime. Give to yourself those moments to just be. The most basic thing you can ever do is breathe, be present now. Thank you.
Wow, thanks, Reverend Connie. Thank you for not only that, but just thank you for saying yes and being here today. It's a little slice of heaven for me to get to spend some time with you in this service today. And quite a reminder. I think that is such a powerful thing. Just the idea of being present, of focusing on the breath, of allowing that to bring me back to the moment so that I am not projecting into the future or, hanging in the past or any of those sorts of things. So thank you so much for that reminder. And I'm going to reintroduce Alberto Del Pino, who will lead us into our Sunday message.
I never read music when I play, but when I sing, I need to read the lyrics. It's my thing, Hate to see you cry, lying there in bed, possession. There's things you need to hear, so turn off your tears and listen. Close your heart to the ground. There's not holding around. But I know the heart of life is good. It's nothing new, and there's never been timing. And the circle of friends will defend the silver lining. There's a hope.
Thank you, Alberto. Thank you so much. And do that again for him, please. Put your hand together for him one more time, please. Alberto is here a lot. He serves this center with music and pretty much never says no to us. So it's just a pleasure to have you in the building and for you to be a part of what is going on here at Pleasant Valley. And so thank you as well for bringing that wonderful John Mayer song to us today, The Heart of Life. Do you guys know that song? Some do, yes? So many of us know that song. For those who don't, I will share in a little bit some of the lyrics. And I think the music, the instrumental portion of that song is gorgeous and wonderful and incredible, and the lyrics are wonderful as well. But I think what I love about that song the most is just the notion or the feeling it conjures up within me in the way that it talks about life. And in my view, this song, The Heart of Life, John Mayer's song, talks about real life. It talks about real life and makes the claim or throws it out there that life is not always unicorns and fairy dust. That there is going to be some difficulty along this physical path as we traverse this world. That life, in fact, as much as we want it to simply be easy and effortless, that there is a little more to it than that. And John Mayer speaks really well to that in his line where he says, if you were able to pick up on it or if you know the lyrics, he says that pain throws your heart to the ground. And I suspect that there is nobody within the sound of my voice who has not had some experience that felt a bit like that. That felt like your heart had been thrown to the ground and perhaps it was shattered or, maybe even stepped or trampled on when it hit the ground. I suspect that is something we all have some basis for comparison with. And so I like the song because it talks about real life. And I notice sometimes a tendency, let me know if you've noticed this tendency, sometimes in our spiritual centers, in our churches, as we embark on ye old spiritual path, that it sometimes comes along with this tendency to look at life as if it is not that real, difficult, and painful thing sometimes. We enter this spiritual realm and we're no longer really supposed to talk about those things. Right? We no longer face difficulty, we now have opportunity, we are told. Right? Those difficulties transform into opportunities, and to be quite honest, I'm not there yet. At least in some cases. And so I appreciate the idea of him mentioning pain throws your heart to the ground. And then he does turn it. He does turn on a dime and say, however, while that is true and that will happen, that love turns the whole thing around. Right? That love turns the whole thing around, and it sounds true, it sounds accurate, it sounds real, and yet I suspect in real-time practice in our lives, it is not simply at the snap of the fingers that love turns this whole thing around. At least that's been my experience. And so he says, pain throws your heart to the ground, love turns the whole thing around, and then goes on to say, no, it won't all go the way it should, but I know the heart of life is good. And so do you get that? Do you know that? Is that a truth with which you live? Is that something you can wrap your mind around, that you can embrace this idea that regardless of what is going on, I know the heart of life is good, that regardless of circumstance and the way it unfolds sometimes, that I know there is goodness running through all of it. And I find this incredibly easy to embrace when life is going exactly like I want it to go. It's really easy then, right? When life is presenting me with the silver platter containing everything I've ordered and nothing that I didn't, it is giving me everything I want or need or desire, I am right there, man. I am right there, and I know the heart of life is good in those moments. But as the song suggests, there are moments of a different flavor from time to time, and I don't always find it as easy to embrace this idea of the heart of life being good in those moments. How about you? Had experiences like that? And so, I want to share my talk title for the day, and my talk title is Throw in the Towel. And Alberto referenced that as well. And so the idea of this talk title of Throw in the Towel is, if we can sort of understand, or it makes sense at least on an intellectual level, that the heart of life is good, what is it that stands in our way of just throwing in the towel and living from that heart space every moment of every day? What is it that prevents our doing so? And the truth of that is that we have spent so much time up here living in this mental world. We spend so much time in our heads that sometimes we're no longer accustomed to living from our hearts. And so, have you had this experience? Have you had the experience of those things going on in your mind impeding something that really is trying to come through your heart? Yes, that your thought processes sometimes keep at bay or shut down that which really is trying to move through you in this way of heart and love and understanding that whatever is going on in this life, the heart of it is based in goodness. Yeah, you guys have had those experiences too, I would assume. And so, I want to share with you an experience from my own life. And this is an experience that it was a difficult experience for me, and it was one of those in which I discovered I was being called to something greater than the mental patterns in which I was living, in which I was existing. And this, I was living in Thousand Oaks. So this goes back a number of years, I don't know, 10 or 11 years ago, something like that. I had moved from Las Vegas, Nevada, with a former partner of mine, moved from Las Vegas, Nevada to the Sacramento area, Antelope, California, actually. Ultimately, we would relocate then to Thousand Oaks. And he took a job transfer to Thousand Oaks. I, in those days, was primarily traveling and working as a casino trainer. So I would do contract work where I would be in a particular casino for a week or two training people, primarily in the state of California. And so I could sort of live anywhere. So my partner took a job transfer to Thousand Oaks. I came along for the ride, continued to do my work. And in that period of time, I had a contract in Northern California. Lasted only a couple of weeks, but I was there training casino dealers and supervisory staff, that sort of thing. And I assume they liked the quality of my work, because at the end of this time, I was offered the general manager job in that particular casino. And it was quite an opportunity. It was quite an offer. And so after that couple weeks, I returned home, and my partner and I talked about it, and we understood that it would require us to, physically separate for some period of time. Yes, we would make plans to see one another and that sort of thing, but we would be, far apart from one another and trying to carry on a relationship. And yet, the job was pretty good. Right? It seemed like it was worth pursuing. And so in the course of our conversations, I chose to pursue that job and that career move. And so off to Northern California I scurried, engaged in my new role as a general manager. And what we hadn't really considered or anticipated, maybe to the degree that it played out, was how rarely we would actually be able to see one another. In other words, he had a very demanding job. My job, too, was very demanding, in that it required me to be at work on evenings and nights and weekends and holidays. It was a casino, after all. And so it was difficult. I couldn't come home every weekend for sure, or every other weekend, and so we were separated from one another for extended periods of time. And we discussed at one point, we realized that this physical distance between us was having a more damaging impact on our relationship than we might have imagined. And so this physical distance was adding to sort of an already emotional distance which we were experiencing before I accepted the job. So it was a real drain, a real drag on this relationship. And so we discussed it and determined that when a suitable job became available in the local area, that I would come back to Thousand Oaks, I would return home, and ultimately that happened. There was a major casino expansion in Ventura. I was offered employment there. I came back, moved back to Thousand Oaks, took my job in Ventura, etc., etc. And what I discovered on coming home, on returning to our home, was the wonderful, warm reception I had been anticipating as I returned to our home was not really present. It was a rather chilly reception I received as I came back to Thousand Oaks. And I would discover in pretty short order what was at least partly responsible for that sort of icy reception as I came back. And I would discover that while I was away pursuing my career and working in Northern California, there were things that had happened that were clearly outside the bounds of acceptability in our relationship. There were things which happened which were clearly outside the agreements we had made around our relationship. And I assume you are getting my drift, so to speak. I will just say that I came to understand fully that old adage of when the cat is away sort of thing, And so I would discover that the mice had been fast at play while I was in Northern California. And so I received that kind of like a punch to the gut, quite honestly. I was absolutely aware of the challenges that existed in our relationship. I knew full well that our relationship had been on something less than solid ground before I left, now put the distance between us. I was absolutely aware that the expiration date on our relationship had probably lapsed a year or two before, and I knew that it was probably in the best interest of both of us to go our separate ways, and yet that did not make it any easier. I was fully okay with our relationship being on the rocks or even ending, but I wasn't okay with it ending in the way that it was playing out. In other words, I'd been okay with it in the shape that it was in, but now I was offended. Now I was angry. Now I was furious. It was very much that space of pain throwing my heart to the ground. And in fact, this situation would come to consume my every waking moment. It consumed every thought I had. It consumed every moment that I spent awake on this planet. And that was most moments, because most nights I couldn't sleep. I was so angry and furious and victimized that it was one of those things that just didn't even allow me to sleep. And so there I laid at night in such a fury, anticipating how I might exact my revenge on this person. Honest to goodness. And so would you believe that we had dogs? I had dogs before we ever met. I had 2 Boston Terriers. And my partner, because they gravitated so much to me, I raised them since they were babies, he wanted his own dog that would be his. And so my sister, whose dog had another litter, gifted him a Boston Terrier, and yet it never quite became his. I spent more time with it than did he. I was the vastly superior pet parent. And so I was scanning Craigslist and real estate for rent and looking for an apartment or a new home or a room for rent so that I could escape in the middle of the night with all the dogs, because I was going to be damned if I left this beautiful little creature with this person. Not to worry, however. He asked me if I would have coffee with him one afternoon, if I would meet him for coffee, and I agreed. And he beat me to the punch. He found his new home before I did. And yet he shared with me that there was a major issue with this home in that they would not allow him to have a dog. And so the, making a break for it in the middle of the night was not necessary. I agreed to take care of the dog, take care of Bella, and she is still with us, and one of the great loves of my life, I will tell you. And so, anyway, it was this period really of intense pain and suffering for me, if that makes some level of sense. And yet, I would look at my phone one day, my cell phone rang, and imagine my surprise that months later, me still living in this same level of pain, months later, my former partner was calling me. And it was kind of that thing where, the train wreck that you really don't want to look at, but you can't take your eyes off of it. And I wanted not to answer this call, but I couldn't quite prevent myself from doing so. And so I took the call, I answered it, and he asked if it was okay if we spoke for a minute or two, and I said yes. And he would share with me that he was in trouble. And he would go on to tell me, unbeknownst to me, that after we went our separate ways, he would lose his job and had been unable to find a new one, hadn't worked in some time. And while he had now been hired at a new job, it wasn't starting for another week or two, and then he wouldn't be paid for a couple of weeks thereafter, and he was facing eviction. He was going to be kicked out of the home in which he was living. And he asked if I would be willing to help him. And I will tell you that everything in my thinking, logical, reasoning mind said absolutely not. Hang up the phone and run like hell. In fact, tell him to go to hell before you hang up the phone and then run like hell. But I didn't do that. As much as my logical mind told me that that was the proper course of action, I didn't do that because there was something seeking to come through my heart. And there was something in my mind by way of my heart that said to me that day, not only do you have the ability to help him, you also have the need to do so. It was the suggestion that I wouldn't help him to help him, that it was something in it for me. And so we agreed to meet, and I drove into the San Fernando Valley, being that he lacked gas money and all. And so I met him in the San Fernando Valley, and we sat down and shared lunch together, and he looked at me and asked in what I thought was a very sincere way how I was doing. And I asked in the sincerest way I could muster how he was doing. And at the end of that lunch and that time together and that conversation, I would give him a significant amount of money. And in fact, I gave him significantly more than he asked for, because I wanted to know that he could not only stay in his home and he would be able to afford to get back and forth to the new job when it began, but I suspected he would probably want to eat, and there might be some other necessities between now and the time that he would receive his first paycheck. And so I did those things, but this story I tell not because it was so humanly gratifying to have him call me and ask for my help, or because I was the bigger person and actually assisted him. I tell this story because of what I learned about the basics that day. And in that situation, what I learned about this very basic concept of heart and love, and the idea that through life there is goodness flowing in every moment. And I learned that day. I learned to love at an entirely different level. And I can't say that is always an easy thing to do, and it certainly wasn't really easy for me in that moment. But I will tell you that my entire philosophy and idea, my understanding of love changed in that instant. Because regardless of however much money I gave him that day, it could never compare to the gift I was given as a result of doing so. Because in doing so, all of that angst and anger and upset and turmoil and fury was simply removed. It evaporated. It vanished in the blink of an eye because of my willingness to throw in the towel. To throw in the towel on what my thinking mind was telling me, and for God's sake, once in my life, listen to what was seeking to come through my heart. And that is a really, really, really big deal. What I learned about love is that our concept of it is rather convoluted. John Mayer is right in his song. John Mayer is absolutely right. Pain will throw your heart to the ground, but love will turn the whole thing around. Only not in the way we so often expect. I think we so often expect to simply sit here, in our full lotus position and expect love to just come in and rush in and save the day. And that is not my experience of how it works. The truth is, love doesn't simply come in and change the world or change our hearts or save the day. Love requires something of us. It requires us to live it. It requires us to stand in it and act and do and look at someone and at something in an entirely different way. It requires us to look through new eyes, to see in a different way. And so in a moment, I'm going to ask Marcy to put up it's a quote from Rumi, 13th century poet. And this particular quote is, it's brilliant, but it speaks so very well to this idea of what is required of us as far as love is concerned, what is required of us if we expect it to turn the whole thing around, whether that be in our individual lives or in this world at large. And Rumi says this, he says that love is the cure, for your pain will keep giving birth to more pain until your eyes constantly exhale love as effortlessly as your body yields its scent. My God, that is powerful. How many live love at this level? I will promise you, I am not there, but it is there that I am working toward. And I promise you, that afternoon in the San Fernando Valley with my former partner, I stepped a little bit closer to that place. Because I come to understand that there is love at an entirely different level. And guess what? It is difficult and it is sticky and sometimes it sucks. Love asks us to do crazy things sometimes. But we have a choice. We are always giving something to life. We are always yielding something to life. The question becomes, do you want to stay in the anger and the upset and the hatred and continue to give birth to more pain? Or do you want to come through your heart and give love to this world in which we live? So how do we do that when it is difficult? How is that accomplished? It is accomplished simply by making a decision, by choosing to do so. And knowing, understanding, getting the realization that we are always giving something to life. Your body is always yielding its scent. The question becomes, is what you're giving to life adding to the fragrance or contributing to the stench? That, my friends, is up to us. Happy Sunday, everybody. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, we are going to... Thank you so much, Alberto. We are going to move into our offertory. And I see Tom and Sandy coming around with baskets. So do we have an offertory slide coming up? And I will reiterate yet again that as you are here, however you contribute to this center, time, money, talent, however that is, please make sure it comes from your heart. That is, after all, what the talk was today. So let's do this affirmation together if we can, please. Before reaching into my pocket, I look into my heart. I see a life that is rich in so many blessed ways. It is my heart's great desire to share with others the good that has been so generously given me. In so doing, my efforts and impact are magnified, and the world is infused with a greater sense of giving. And so it is. All right, my friends. Back by popular demand after a 1-week sabbatical from announcements here at the center, I'm going to ask our very own practitioner, Buzz Noe, to come up and let you know a little bit about what is going on in and around CSL Pleasant Valley.
I will do that for you, Reverend Kelly. Thank you for putting the mic up. And thank you all for being here on the second Sunday of October. Reverend Kelly's lesson of throwing in the towel was a great message for us to help us have a better life, even if we don't have any towels left. So, I'm Buzz Noe, happy to be here for the announcements. And once again today, right after our service, around noon or so, we will offer a live spiritual treatment over in room 4. Our practitioner that will be here for you is Reverend Connie, and she'll be ready to treat for anyone who has anything going on in their life that might be causing stress, anxiety, depression, sadness, anything like that. She can allow you to be more closely connected to your divine perfection. So go see her after the lesson if that would be something you would like to have in your life. Okay, also happening again this week on Wednesday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., our wonderful spiritual director, Reverend Kelly, will lead a review and a discussion of today's lesson, how you can more appropriately apply that to your lives. There's no fee for that. He'll be here from 4 to 6, and any of you are welcome to come and visit with him on Wednesday. And we ask you to please do continue to donate to the center, which allows us to be here for you at all times. And we've already passed the collection tray around, but there's also ways that you can donate online at any time. They're right here. You can donate through the website, through PayPal, and through Zelle. So thank you all for doing that and what you've given us. And a reminder that the women's group will meet again today, right after the lesson from 12:30 to 1:30. Takes place over in room 4 this week, and it'll allow all you wonderful women to be part of the growth and the changing at our center. So please plan on doing that. And Lisa Coffey will be gathering here again this month, coming up on the Sunday, October 16th, I guess it is, at 4:30 p.m. She'll be here with her special guest, Reverend Savan Devinyanda. Please do plan to attend this wonderful session because it is a great gathering and you get your spiritual connection through them as well. And a reminder, our next social club gathering will likely take place on Friday, October 28th, which is the 4th Friday of the month. We'll have more information forthcoming on that, but we right now are asking anyone who would like to volunteer to host that. So if that's something that you feel like you could do and have that gathering take place, please see Marcia or Reverend Kelly, and they'll let you know what's involved and how you can do that. And we'll hopefully see you all here on that fourth Friday. And a reminder that our Center Spiritual Energy Fair, it takes place next month, this month, Saturday, October 29th. We're going to have sessions most of the day with readers, psychics, healers, and probably practitioners as well, who will assist you once again in revealing your divine perfection. So we'll have more information forthcoming on that as we get closer to it. And you can always visit our center's website to learn more about events. Our center's website has been updated, so please do take some time, visit the new page, confirm some of these events if you have any questions about it. They're all on the website. And coming up later this month, October 23rd, which happens to be my 77th birthday, which takes me back because I was right before the end of World War II, and I always figured, hey, they must have ended World War II in order to keep my family and me healthy and alive. So that's probably what I did, was help end World War II. So anyway, we're going to have a community meeting here at the center on October 23rd, and it's going to be a lot of fun for us to gather. It'll be right after the lesson. Okay, and finally, Columbus Day takes place on Monday, so let's find ways to make it a fun day. All right, there you have it. That ends the announcements. Thanks you all for being here. And next up again is Reverend Kelly to tell you more about what's coming up. Thank you.
I got this, Buzz. I'm teasing you. All right, so couple of things. Women's group today, is that right? And that is 12:30. Is that the correct time? 12:30 to 1:30. Just down the sidewalk here in our secondary room, room 4, if you are so inclined, and if you're a woman. You know, there are requirements. I'll be here Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. I'm available for office hours. Other than that, I'm available for appointments and office hours outside that time. If you need that, would like that, please contact the center. Let us know. And then again, I'll make a special announcement for October 23rd. We'll have lunch after service, but I want to have a conversation about where and how we move forward as a center. Okay, so it won't take a huge amount of time, but please partake in that if you can. I would so greatly appreciate it. The thing with Swami S. and Lisa Coffey is 1 week from today. The 16th is 1 week from today, so that's pretty quick. Anyway, I am going to finish us up with a prayer, and then Alberto is going to play us out of here for the day. So I'll see you Wednesday afternoon. I'll see those of you who are in the Living the Serenity Prayer class on Thursday night. And then everybody here again next Sunday, okay? Everybody here again next Sunday. Okay, fair enough. Here we go. So if you're comfortable doing so and you'd like to just close your eyes and settle in for a final prayer, please do so. And simply know with me that there is one power, one presence, one divine mind behind all of life. It is the heart of life. And it doesn't matter so much if it is called God, universe, spirit. The heart of life is good, and I know that right here, right now, more so than I have ever known it before. And so I simply sink into that understanding, to that knowledge, and I allow that to permeate my every thought, my every action, my every step, knowing that as I live in that way, as I sink from head to heart and live from that place, that life is transformed in a moment. That life becomes better and more thrilling and more exciting for me and for others and for the world at large. So I simply open my heart and mind and arms to this understanding and say yes. And so for this day, for this service, for this center, for this moment, I am incredibly grateful. I simply release my word knowing it is perfect, whole, complete, right here, right now, and I release that by affirming. And so it is.
All right, so I was asked to, no, I wasn't asked to play anything. I decided to play a song But then something came up, and I decided to change it. And I would like, it's a song that everybody knows. I could sing it in Italian, but I don't think it would be appropriate for you to follow me with that. So let's sing it all together in English, because today it's a special day after all. It's Reverend Kelly's birthday. So let's do it.